Come on, brother man. Here we go. We are off to the races.
Head up so no one sees my grace.
Hello, everybody.
Did they see my grace?
No, but they heard you talking about it. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the fun.
Hello.
We are experiencing so many fun technical difficulties
Yes,
today.
we are.
And it feels like it's making me talk so weird. So I'm going to try my best to keep the flow going. But just give us a second. Welcome to the podcast today. As always, we're going to welcome our recorded audience, and then we'll dive in. We got a great topic today, so let's check it out. Here we go.
Okay.
Hey, everybody. Thanks so much for checking out this week's episode of the Discipleship Track podcast. I'm your host, Pastor Rob, joined, as always, by the one and only Patsy Prati. Patsy, say what's up.
Hey, people.
And we are here because we believe that God has called us to live a life that is fully devoted to Him. But here's the thing. In order to do that, we got to put in a little bit of work. It's not going to happen on its own. So we create these podcasts almost each and every week when the computer decides to work, so that we can grow together and become more fully devoted followers of Him. So we hope that wherever you are right now, where you're listening to this or watching this, we are doing it with you because that is what we want. We are here to build a community.
Yes, we are.
So we're going to dive right in because we've been trying really hard to stick to our 20 minutes or less.
And we've been
podcast.
successful.
We've been very successful.
Yes.
So we're going to do that again, so we're not going to waste any more time with the intro. But anyway, we have been walking through, because we as a church, if you're following us and you don't go to Powerhouse, just a quick heads up, we as a church on Sunday mornings are diving into the book of Daniel and talking about how we can live our lives within an untouchable faith and what that actually looks like. We've been learning from Daniel and his friends about how to do that. And so we thought it would be fun as a podcast topic for the next few months. I was going to say months. We could talk about
Sometimes
it.
Sometimes it seems like that, Rob.
But for the next few weeks, we are going to be talking about it as well, because I think it's just a really important thing for us, especially in the year 2020, to kind of understand what it looks like to live a life with an untouchable faith. Because I think for all of us, we're faced every single day, even not on the broad scale of like the world's asking you to compromise, although that's definitely a real thing, but even just as a husband, as a wife, as a son, as a daughter, as a parent, as a friend, whatever it is, each and every minute of every day, we are being challenged to live a life that may look, feel, or sound different than the person that we're around. And so we want to look at how do we actually do that in a way that honors God and doesn't kind of just compromise or kind of waffle when the going gets tough. You know?
And I think that the coolest thing is that we can look to these stories, like ancient stories, and realize, oh my gosh, these people were going through the same thing, if not worse, than what I'm going through today. Like, my story may not be exactly the same, but man, the principles are there, and these guys were suffering, and there was so much pressure on them for their faith to be touched, marred, torn apart. And yet they decided to live a certain way. And that's what I love about learning these ancient stories. So today we're in Daniel chapter 2. Little backstory just for those of you who maybe haven't read it yet, but go ahead and get your Bibles out, at some point in the day.
Unless
Old
you're
Testament.
driving, then keep your eyes on the road.
Please keep your eyes on the road. That's a public safety announcement from us, Patsy and Rob, watching out for you. But when you get a chance, read it. It can wait. So Daniel chapter 2 is about when Daniel and his friends taken captive. Now they live in Babylon. Now they work for the king. So the king one night has a really bad dream, like a really, 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 really bad dream. And I was telling you before, I had a really bad dream.
Heard.
How
haven't
funny
heard the dream yet, though.
No, I have to tell you later.
Is it like safe for sharing on the?
Maybe. It was really scary, and it's
peer
affecting
pressure
my
you into sharing
day.
it
Okay,
before this is
maybe
over.
the pressure will come. But so the king has like worst dream ever. Wakes up, calls in. He has like a whole team of magicians and interpreters and whatever, and they're going to interpret his dream. Calls him in, but he's in such a crappy mood. He goes, let me tell you what. He goes, I'm not telling you what the dream is. You're going to tell me what the dream is, and you're going to tell me what it means. And if you don't, I'm going to burn your house down. I'm going to kill your family. I'm going to plow everything over. So these guys who were, frauds, like they were all frauds. They're like, oh, no. Oh, great king. We love you so much. And tell us the dream. And we'll tell you what it means. And he has like this one moment of wisdom because he's actually not the brightest king in the world. Sorry, I can say that because he's been gone for a long time. So he can't come after me. But he has this moment of wisdom where he's like, no, I'm not. You tell me what the dream was. You guys are supposed to be these magical magicians. Yeah. You tell me. They can't figure it out. They're like, nobody can do it. Nobody can tell us. So the king's like, that's it. Off with their heads. Everybody's going to die. So fast forward, the guys who have to carry out this mission, they're knocking on magicians' doors. Come with us. We're going to take you to execute you. They knock on Daniel and his friends' doors. And they're like, listen, the king is going to kill you. Now, imagine your day. Someone comes and knocks on your door.
You're just home doing your thing.
You're home. You're polishing the silver. I don't know what you're doing. You're feeding the dog. Knock on the door. Hey, the king wants your head. And that's it. He just wants your head. And you're like, I mean, wouldn't you be like, let's just stop before I tell you what Daniel did. What would your reaction be? Would you be like freaking out?
No, I would be totally fine.
You'd be really calm?
Yeah, absolutely.
You're just okay, smooth, no problem.
You can have it.
Dude, I'm there. We're going.
No worries.
So, I mean, I'm sorry. Like, shocker that this may be to our audience out there. I would be flipping out. I'd be like, what? Are you kidding me? What do you mean? The king was good. Why me? What did I do? What's wrong? But Daniel is so smooth. And this goes to, because we're layering in this podcast right now. We're teaching each week a little bit of something. Daniel had made a decision. I love God. I'm going to honor God with my life. So now, knock comes on the door. Tragedy is right on his doorstep because somebody else is in a really bad mood and it's splattering all over him. Yep. And Daniel answers with wisdom. And he just says, tell me what the story is. Like, why today? Why does he want my head today? What's going on? Guy tells him he had a dream, whatever, nobody can interpret it. So you have to die. That's what has to happen. And Daniel is just not having it. He's like, you know what? Give me a minute. Me and my friends are we're gonna pray about this. Yep. So he dials up his friends, and he's like, listen, guys, we have to pray about something really serious because if we don't, we're dead in like 24 hours. So I just want to pause for a second at this part of the story and talk about when someone else's bad mood splatters all over you and how that can affect you. And that's what bad moods are, right? When you have an outburst of anger, it has a splatter effect. Oh my gosh. Lots of people say ripple effect. I don't like that. Guess why? Because that sounds too nice. Ripple sounds like, oh, you're on a lake. Yep. And it's what? Splatter sounds like exactly what it is. Totally. Anger has a splatter effect. And it can really, not only can it dictate the way your day goes, but here we're talking about this guy's dictating someone's destiny. He's telling them it's your life. But have you ever had that or have you ever been the cause of that? Where your anger has splattered all over somebody else? No,
because I don't get angry. So
you're a ripple effect guy. You're just smooth sailing.
I'm always building everybody up and making them feel great. So
that is a lie.
Just how I roll.
Just telling you.
No, it's funny because I think this is probably one of the. I'll just peek behind my curtain here. One of the most frustrating things for me of being a parent is how much power our attitudes have over our whole family.
Yep.
Like sometimes I wish they would ignore me a little bit more because it's like I know if I walk in the house after having a bad day and I'm angry, I'm frustrated, and I'm going to splatter all over it, it is 100% going to affect the mood and the temperature of the whole house.
Oh, yeah.
And it drives me crazy.
And sometimes they can tell just by the look on your face,
100%.
right?
You don't even have to open your mouth.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The kids are like, what's wrong, Daddy?
Yep, exactly. Yeah, it drives me absolutely insane.
And that's usually the night, right, go with me, someone at the dinner table knocks over their drink or something, or the dog rips up your thing.
Yeah, exactly. Not bitter or anything.
Not like that just happened last night.
If anybody wants a dog, by the way, she may be on borrowed time, but you're more than welcome to ride it out with her.
We're donating a dog right now. So my question to you is, what do you do? What do you do? So now don't be the splatterer, be the splattery. Totally. Because Daniel was the splattery. He's receiving. And Daniel answers kind of cool and calm, and he turns to God. So how do we help people?
I just have to stop because our little Facebook Live is blowing up with the little hearts in the corner there.
Facebook, we love you. Hello,
you guys are awesome.
Yes.
And Susan just said she got a new puppy, so way to go, Susan.
Rock
it
out. Susan, yeah.
That's fantastic. Sorry.
We'll be praying for you.
Totally
so you're the splattery. Someone else's bad mood is splattering over you, and it's about to affect your destiny for that day.
Yeah.
What are some steps? Like let's midway through the podcast. What are some steps that you could take right in the moment? The knock comes on the door. Yeah. Off with your head. I'm so angry. Here it is. What are some steps you can take in that moment?
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing for everybody. It's we can all figure it out 10 minutes later or 20 minutes later. And we're like, oh, I should have said this. How do we help people
you can
in
always
the
Monday
moment?
Morning quarterback it, right? Like, this is what I should have done differently, and this is what I wish I had said, and all those kind of things.
I want to master. What do I do in the moment? Yeah. Well, how can I be Daniel? I open the door and I'm like, no worries. It's all good.
Yeah.
I got this covered.
I think, unfortunately, I'm going to sound like a broken record, and because if you watched or listened to last week's episode, I'm basically going to say the same thing.
Okay.
And that is, how do you respond well in the moment? You don't wait till you're in the moment to respond.
Ooh, good. I loved it last week. I still love it.
I have to say that again, because I think that's one of the biggest life lessons that I've got to keep learning every single day.
Right.
Is that if I wait till I'm in the crisis to think about what I'm going to say, how I'm going to say it, or how I'm going to respond, what I'm going to allow into my heart and my ears that day, then it's too late. You might as well have just given up, because then you're allowing whatever or whoever is putting that stuff in front of you to dictate what it is that you're going to do and how you're going to respond, because you're giving them the control in that situation. And I love, like, even just to go back to what you just said about Daniel, when the guy came to him and he's like, hey, the king's going to have your head. He's like, cool, hang on a second. Like, he didn't give up control of the situation.
Right.
And if you read through Daniel, you'll always see that Daniel always had control of the situation, because he never waited till he was in that situation to decide what he was going to do. And I love reading through, because you'll start to pick up some of the language. I know we talked about that last week too, of make sure you're reading through these things. Make sure you're kind of looking at Daniel, because if you look at it through the lens of how he prepared, you'll start to see, like, oh, Daniel was up in the room praying like he had always done.
Right.
Daniel, when the food was put in front of him, no, I know I'm not going to eat that because my God says I shouldn't. Like, he already knew that. He had already put that time, that energy, and that effort in. And that's what you have to do before you get into those moments, or those moments will own you every single time.
It's that training program. You got to decide, how am I going to train myself, because the moment will come. It's coming for all of us. Make no mistake. Somebody's going to knock on the door, and it may not be somebody's anger that splatters all over you. In this story, that's what it is. But the principle applies across the board. The knock comes on the door, and it's bad news. You know, you lost your job. The knock comes on the door, and it's bad news. You know what? We're not going to be able to walk you through this illness.
That's right.
We're just going to try to keep you comfortable. The bad news comes when the knocks on the door, and your kid's coming home going, my marriage fell apart, and mom and dad, I need to move back in. Whatever it is, the knock is coming on the door. How are you going to prepare today for the knock that comes on the door? Or maybe, like, we don't always have to look at it as a negative. How can you prepare when someone else in your life gets the knock on the door? Because there are friends that are involved in this story. Daniel gets a knock on the door. He calls his friends and he's like, guys, we got to pray together. So maybe you can be preparing for, I want to be able to be that person who's there in the moment for my friend when that news comes for them, when life splatters all over them. I want to be able to be the person who's like, I'm ready. I am so ready. I've already been praying for you in advance, but I am ready and I'm here for you. And we are not going to allow anybody else to dictate our destiny. That's God's job only. So if you don't remember anything that Rob and I say today, remember that. God is in charge of your destiny. He has a purpose for you. He has a plan for you. He made you on purpose. He gave you certain gifts that you're supposed to use. He gave you good works in advance that prepared that you were supposed to do. You put your faith in Jesus Christ, and you turn to God in every single situation and say, what am I going to do? What am I going to do here? What am I going to do now? Don't let anyone else tell you that. And that's what the king was trying to do. He was trying to dictate it.
Yeah, totally.
Right.
And you know why he was? Because he was so insecure himself.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, he didn't want anybody to see him a certain way. He didn't want anybody to think about him outside of what he could present to everyone else. And I think that's a great thing for us to understand too, is that a lot of times we'll allow these things to destroy us because we're not secure in who we really are and who God has made us to be and the destiny that God has given us. And so when these people will come and try to throw these things at us, whether it's good, bad, or indifferent, and you don't have that understanding and that foundation and that untouchable faith to say, no, that's not truth. That is not what God says about me. That is not how God has asked me to live. That is not how God has destined me to function in this world. I'm not going to allow that to dictate me and my identity.
Right.
If you don't do that ahead of time, then anytime that happens, it'll destroy you.
Yes, it will. And here's the cool thing is, in this moment in Daniel's life where it's supposed to be the end, the knock comes on the door, it's supposed to be the end. And he's like, hang on just a second. Let's all take a deep breath. We're going to pray about this. It's in the moment where it looked like everything where it was going to end, and that's where it really began for him. His purpose starts to unfold because someone else's anger splattered on him, but because Daniel made the decision that you're not in control of my destiny, only God is in control of my destiny. I'm going to pause and talk to the Lord, and then he takes the courageous steps. We talked about courage last week. Go ahead and listen to that podcast. We talked about that. Takes the courageous step, goes to the king. And in the middle of, because you talked about the king, he was insecure. You know why the king was insecure? He had a really bad inner circle. Like, he was not surrounding himself with some good quality people. And you know what? Sometimes we can't choose all the people that are around us. So you impact them with your good, but not everyone's impacting you with good. But he invites Daniel in, and he's willing to listen to him. And all of a sudden, what looked like it was going to be the end of the line for him ends up being the beginning of his purpose. He starts to shine as this bright light in this kingdom. And he's delivering really bad news to the king. Yeah. It's not good news. He's telling him some really rough stuff about what his dream meant and what's going to happen to him. And, you know, it's not the first dream. He interprets this one. He interprets another one. Both of them, not really a great dream. So, but he has the courage to go forward and do it. And you know what? If we're helping people with their being a disciple of Jesus Christ, sometimes what we have to deliver even to ourselves, reality check to ourselves, or maybe to someone that we love, it may not be the best news in the world, but we can do it in the most God-honoring way.
That's right.
Daniel did it with honesty. He did it with godly courage. He did it with complete integrity. He did it with no self-serving. He wasn't like, well, here's my moment. All the other magicians failed. And now I know what the dream is about. And guess what? I'm going to get that big bonus, and I'm getting the office in the corner, and I'm going to get the promotion. That's not all what he was doing. He made a decision. I want to honor God with my life. I want to honor God with my life. I've got to deliver this news to the king. I'm just going to do it. You know, clearly his life depended on it, but he goes forward and he tells the king and takes no credit for himself. He says to the king, only God can do this. This isn't about me. This is about the Lord. So I love that. And it wasn't a false humility, because we can all be like, you know, that's totally. Like, let's go down the Christianese road for a minute. Okay. You know, the people that are like, oh, you know, it's all about God, you know, but then they want to open, but like, I really like that compliment for me.
God, but you see who's saying it. Right?
Yeah. So exactly. You're getting the whole picture here, right?
I love it.
So we want to give God glory in the most real way. If you have to constantly be over saying that, you might want to tone that down just a little bit. That's just another self-help tip in our walk with the Lord. So I guess for today, we want to really focus on that whole splatter effect thing and how we prepare. So the first is be prepared in advance. Yes. So the second is in the moment. I mean, can we give those regular self-help tips that come from outside?
Yeah, totally.
Stop and take a deep breath. I envision Daniel at the door going, you know, okay, so what's wrong with the king? Because it says that he answers. I have to find the verse. Where it says how he answers.
All right. While you're doing that,
while
I
I'm
doing
doing
say
that,
hi to Aunt Gina.
Oh, Aunt Gina's here.
It's Sam's Aunt Gina, and she says hello. So
hi, Aunt Gina. And we love you already.
I'm loving the conversation in the comments today.
You Facebook guys are too cool.
I love it. I'm super distracted, but it's for great reasons.
That's okay. Aunt Gina and everybody, listen to this. So in Daniel chapter 2, Daniel opens the door. This is what he says. The Bible says, Daniel replied with discretion and discernment.
So good.
Discretion and discernment. So not freaking out, which P.S. I would be doing. So discernment, not relying on his own wisdom. He went into the tank of what you have already taught us, prepared in advance. So he was able to reach in there and go, I can give a discerning answer here. So being prepared in advance, I think that you've already given like the best advice that anybody can walk away with today.
Well, thank you very much.
No, that was going to come back to bite me.
So glad we have that recorded.
But he really has. It really is the best advice. You've got to be prepared in advance, because the moment is going to come. But discretion and discernment, those are two like really, really great words, because maybe one of you guys that's watching or listening today, the knock might be coming for you today. And we just are here with you. We're here for you. We want you to be ready for it. Yeah. Take that deep breath. Use your discretion to say, I'm not going to freak out, because no one else is in charge of my destiny except God Almighty. Yep. I'm going to take a moment, and I'm going to pause, and I'm going to talk to him. Right. And make sure that you're protecting your inner circle. King, terrible inner circle.
Okay, so yeah.
Daniel, great inner circle.
I want to jump in on this, and I'm shooting from the hip on this one, but it's just something that I was thinking about as we were talking about this, of like how you respond well and things like that. And I hope I'm not stretching this too far. and if I am, sorry.
He's not sorry.
Call me a heretic, but I
He might
thought
be.
it's interesting, right? Like when Nebuchadnezzar and the king and all those guys. Did I say Nebuchadnezzar? Yeah, that's
You
right.
did.
Yeah,
It's the right king.
okay.
It's the right king. Good.
Sorry, I'm hopped up on all kinds of stuff.
I know. What are you taking? What are these what are these
They're
things?
old lady
What's in
candies.
here? What kind of poison is this?
Someone put razor blades in my throat last night. I'm sorry, I can't help it. But anyway, I noticed that when the king was having all these issues, he did not want to listen to the advisors that were in his inner circle.
Yeah. He's like hot mad. He's like hot mad at them.
And I find it interesting, right? Because they were the guys that were probably around him the most, that were always speaking into his life.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, that's just what they would do. But it's interesting because they lost their voice to the king.
Yep.
But Daniel didn't. And I like that most of the time when the king calls for Daniel, he has to call for Daniel.
Yeah.
Because Daniel's not just there all the time,
right,
throwing his input and his opinion at the king.
Right.
And I think there's something to that. And I've had a lot of conversations with people about this. And the thing is, we don't realize how easy it is to lose our voice when you're constantly pushing it on someone else.
Wow. Love that. That is like
so
very profound.
So I think if
you're
you
on fire today. Okay. You should get a whole box of those candies.
Hopped up on ginger, baby. But I think that's true. Like, and I think I've seen this play out in my relationship with my wife. I've seen it with my kids, with my friends, all those kind of things. If you're constantly pushing your beliefs, your opinions, and everything on them in I would say a threatening way, right? Like, I'm trying to be really cautious with how I say it because I don't want you to be timid and shrink back and things like that. But I think what you just read about Daniel is that he operated with discernment.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes the discernment we need is to know when to just shut our mouth and not to just push our opinion on someone else. And I think when you do that and when you can start to understand that a little bit better and manage that discernment and manage what you say and how often you say it, that's when your words will have a far greater impact than when you're just throwing them at people nonstop.
Absolutely, because we can end up taking our faith and our truth and whatever, and it might be true what you're saying to someone, but if you hit them in the face like with a brick, all you're going to do is knock them out. Yeah. You're not helping anybody when you do that. So I think that that's important. I love what you said too about how Daniel always had to be called, because I think that that's a theme that goes through the whole book of Daniel that's very, very interesting to me. And I've really been focusing on that a lot too. And the other guys are always lurking around the king because they're self-serving. And they're not really finding their purpose. Yeah. And you guys, we all want to find what's my purpose today, what's my purpose long term. There's purposes all the way along the way. Daniel was out doing his job. Do you know that he's in this pagan culture, kidnapped into it, but becomes one of the highest ranking administrators of that kingdom? Yeah. So he's like a total politician, but he's out doing the work. He's just not lurking around the king trying to say, oh, I hope the king notices me. He's just doing his work. He's doing his job. He's making strides. I think that when we get to heaven, and I always joke and I say when I get my heaven directory and I look up Daniel and I go and knock on his door and I'm like, hey, can we talk about this? I want to go, what was happening in those blank spaces? Yeah. Why were they looking for you? What were you doing? And I'll bet you there's going to be people in heaven that are like, oh, well, Daniel was totally at my house, or he was helping my family, or he was doing whatever, administrating. So be all about doing the work, not just looking for the moment of glory. We have a few highlights from Daniel's life here. The magicians that were around the king were trying to be like, I want the spotlight. I want it to be all about me. And that's why they were just, they were like white noise, like making noise around the king. Yeah. Daniel shines as a bright light, and we have a few highlights from his life, but don't think that the rest of it didn't matter. It all did matter. That's why there's longevity. And 70 years later, or however long he's in captivity, the 4 kings later, they're still calling on him for advice. Yeah. That's a pretty cool thing.
Seriously.
Be all about, just be consistent, be all about the work. The big bright moments, they'll come. God's going to fulfill his purpose in you. No one's going to dictate it. Only you can be in charge of that when you turn to the Lord, and it'll happen. But don't sit back on your heels and don't just try to be all busy about making a name for yourself. Right. Otherwise you're on the magician team, and they don't even have names in the Bible.
No, totally.
That's
they
really
get
sad.
A lot of playtime.
No, they just get like a title, and it's kind of like a mocking one. Exactly. So it's not a good thing. Not that I'm mocking magicians. If you're a magician out there, we love you, because I used to have you guys at my kids' birthday parties when they were little, and they were cute.
They were pretty fun.
So don't want to offend anybody.
Anyway, hey,
we love everyone here.
Unfortunately, we are a little bit over time, I think, because we were just having such a great conversation. Yeah, we're at like 25 minutes.
Oh, so I don't have to share my dream.
Oh, save it for next time.
He already closed us out.
In radio world, that's a teaser. So way to go. Next week.
For those of you who want to know what my dream was last night, because it was like, you have no idea.
Maybe we'll do a bonus content.
You have no idea.
We'll do bonus content. And if you're wondering where the bonus content is, hey, guess what? It's on our YouTube page. So you should check that out. Go to our YouTube channel, search for the Discipleship Track podcast, and we're actually the first one that pops up. That's pretty fun. I think
we're the only one.
Too long of a title. Nobody else wants to have it. But hey, I just want to say to everybody that joined us for our live video today, Susan, Sam, Aunt Gina, Jess, all of you, it was so great to have you, and you guys made some incredible points. And we're grateful that we're doing this together. This,
yes,
I think,
yes,
is a
that's
really
what we want.
Because we're growing as a community. We're not teaching, we're talking. So let's continue to do that.
We're the talkers.
We are definitely the talkers.
Sorry.
But hey, we're going to call it a day with that. And I hope you guys had a great time on the podcast today. If you did, we'd love to hear about it. So if you got a question, a comment, a suggestion, an episode topic that you'd like us to talk about, we want to hear it. Either leave it in the comments below, or send us an email at discipleshiptrack@powerhousecc.org. But we want to know. We want to know about the things that you want to talk with us about. So let's hear them.
And share this. Share this with your friends.
Absolutely.
Somebody needs this today.
Share the video. It's ready to go. And then go over to check it out on our YouTube channel, and you can share that as well. Be sure to like, subscribe, all those kind of things so that we can continue to grow the community here of people that want to live a life that's fully devoted to Him.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Hope you guys have an amazing day.
Yes.
An amazing week. And we can't wait to see you next Wednesday.
Love you guys.
Podcast. Thanks, guys.
Bye.